19, verses 1 through 10. Luke 19, verses 1 through 10. You know the story. And here we go. He entered Jericho and was passing through it. A man was there named Zacchaeus. Are you singing yet? Who was the chief tax collector. Uh-oh, they're on the IRS again this week. Bless their hearts. And was rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was. Now take note of that. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd, he could not because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, because he was going to pass that way. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. So he hurried down and was happy to welcome him. All who saw it began to grumble and said, he has gone to be the guest of one who is a sinner. Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much. Then Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because he too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So we know, you think we could ever make it into a rock tune? You know, Zacchaeus? Maybe a little cheap trick, or, some sort of Metallica version, or country music song. Who could we get to do? Jason Aldean? As long as Carrie Underwood sings it, I'm okay. Let me pause. Zacchaeus was what? A wee little man, and a wee little man was he. Oh, we remember that. Part of those good vacation Bible songs we used to sing long ago. Deep. Remember all those? There's a fountain. This little mountain. Yeah, okay. We remember that song. From time to time, I want to say that we are all Zacchaeuses. We little men and we little women. Regardless of how tall we are, at some point in our lives, we have all known what it's like to be, as the scriptures say, short in stature. Maybe that's the reality for some of us today in this very room. But we all been there. We've all been short in stature. And to be short in stature is not about one's physical height. It's a spiritual condition that affects people of all ages, nations, races, shapes, sizes, and no exclusion. No one is left out of this. It's the great unifier. Life slaps us all in the face. No one's left out. Zacchaeus is described as chief tax collector. And from last week, he's made quite a bit of money off of his position because the tax collectors were in cahoots with the Roman occupiers. And tax collectors preyed upon the people. So, he was an outcast. He had no standing in society. Even the Pharisees and people who come to pray, thank God that they are not like him. He was, as Luke says, short in stature. Don't we all have our Zacchaeus stories? We do, whether we want to talk about them or not. I wouldn't believe anyone in this room if they told me they didn't have a Zacchaeus story. I would believe it. We all have our Zacchaeus stories. We have all been Zacchaeus at one time or another. We have all experienced being short in stature. And it happens to all of us in many different ways. We've all been cut down to size, haven't we? We've all been made to, at some point, to be made to feel small and insignificant. Or perhaps we've been ignored and made of little importance. We have at times been made to feel as if we just don't measure up to whatever our expectations are, people. And what did we say about expectations last week? Unhidden resentments. Expectations come out of our own conflicts that we transfer onto another. We've all been made to feel at one time that we're good enough, or we don't measure up, that we just don't fit in. We've all been made to feel as if we're always on the outside of whatever that is. We've been made to feel like we'll never be an insider. I don't know what that is either. It's like that whole popularity thing. Is there a committee? On the inside, around the outside. Yes, I grew up in Dyersburg. I know what that means. I'm a small town boy. I'm a little more redneck than you. You know Dyersburg. Yeah. I've been to the social world. It seems at times as if we can't outgrow our past. Or that we cannot outgrow the opinions other people have on us. How many people here constantly feel like they have to prove themselves? I want you to know you have nothing to prove with me. There is no earning respect or earning trust with me. It's graciously and honestly given to you with unconditional grace, with the expect that you'll do it for others. We don't have anything to prove to anybody except God. Children, youth, hear me now. We have nothing to prove. You will always be loved in this church, no matter what. Unconditional love and grace. Why do we work so hard, constantly trying to prove ourselves? Who are we trying to impress? You don't have to impress me. You don't. I mean, I'm the preacher who wears tennis shoes because after a pandemic, I'm not putting on wear shoes again. You have nothing to prove to me about anything. You can come in my office and just sit down and just keep talking. I mean, you know, if I'm just impressed that you would want to come and talk to me. You know? So all this trying to impress people with stuff just doesn't fly with me. My sister had 30-something girls in her class. They were the worst class in the history of Dyersburg. One got one car, they all had 30 cars. You know, one went to Florida, the next one was going to Tahiti. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous. And most of them were in the same Sunday, the parents were in the same Sunday, but oh, it was just crazy. But we've been there. We have been there. We're constantly trying to prove ourselves. And for some reason, we think we have to prove ourselves to God. I know the reason. Judgment-based preaching. There's a wonderful book about grace-filled preaching and judgment-based preaching. Because that's one of the reasons why so many 18 to 30-year-olds are not in the church now. And we continue to lose 1 million of that age group every year. Judgment-based preaching versus grace-filled preaching. We think we have to prove something to God. And for all these years of ministry, I've always heard people in their 80s and 90s who say they are just not good enough. They just don't feel good enough. And how sad that is. We think we have to prove ourselves to God. That's awful and it's sad because you have nothing to prove to God except your honesty. So it seems as if our life is not growing, maturing, or deepening, and that our growth has just stopped. We wonder if Jesus even notices us. You ever felt like that? Knows who we are, even knows our name. We have felt powerless and overwhelmed by the circumstances of our life. It sometimes seems as if our value, worth, and dignity have been defined by our past actions and choices. What we have done and left undone. We have experienced being lost and anonymous in the crowds of life. We have felt as if we just weren't up to what life was asking out of us. We all know, my friends, what it feels like to be short in stature. We have all been Zacchaeus. And God help anyone who makes someone else feel like Zacchaeus. Every time I feel short in stature, I just want to run away and escape my life. You know that. I want to jump out of my life and into another life. But I can't. It's my life and it's the only life I have. I mean, it's not as if we have a choice. If Jesus is going to do anything new with me, it has to start. Now, this is important. This is where you get your pens out and write this down. If Jesus is going to do anything in our lives, it has to start with where our life is right now. Right now. Because there's no pretending with God. As it is right now. The key to being short in stature is facing our life as it is now and not running away from it. Don't run away from it. That's what Zacchaeus does in today's gospel. He refuses to be lost in the crowd. He refuses to hide. He's had enough. He refuses to run away from who he is. Instead, he runs ahead of the crowd and climbs a tree. Everyone could see what he was doing. He wants to see Jesus. But here is what I wonder. Here is what I wonder. What if he climbed that tree because he wanted to be seen by Jesus? What if he wanted to be seen by Jesus? What if he climbed that tree because he wanted to face his truth and the reality of his own life? What if he wasn't just climbing the tree, but was climbing the cross of being short in stature? What if Zacchaeus was offering all that he was and all that he had to Jesus? What if that was him crying out, "Here I am. This is my life. Look at me and recognize me." And guess what? That's exactly what Jesus did. In the eyes of the crowd, Zacchaeus is a sinner. In his own eyes, he's a wee little man, short in stature. But in the eyes of Jesus, Zacchaeus is a beloved child of God. And there is not a child or adult, man, woman on the face of this earth who is not a beloved child of God. Zacchaeus was sought, seen, forgiven, saved, and redeemed. The lost one had been found. That's what I want when I am short in stature. Don't you? Sure, we want to see Jesus. We all said that. We want to see Jesus. But wouldn't you rather want to be seen by Jesus? We want to be recognized and called out by name. We want Jesus to call us out of the tree and into a new life. Well, let me tell you, this is our day. Congratulations. It is Sing by Jesus Day. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulate everyone. Congratulate each other. Come on, this is be sing. You're not congratulating everyone. You're being sing by Jesus and you're still sitting there. You come on now, celebrate. Pat someone on the back. Thank you, Jack. Come on now. You're being sing by Jesus Day. There we go. Little love. Yes. It's okay to make that in church. Kathy and I did all the time. Today's your day. Because that's the promise. It's a promise that today's gospel holds for each one of us. Okay.